Joining me now is Adam Pascal, one of the wonderful performers in tonight's program and a member of the original cast of Rent.
Yes.
And you're now performing regularly on Broadway in Aida.
Correct.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about what you're singing tonight.
I'm singing, I'm part of the opening number with Brent Spiner, which is a huge thrill for me being the Trekkie that I am. And I know he doesn't like to hear that, but he's going to have to suffer through it. And for my mother, who's coming to visit, and for my wife. Then I'm singing a song from Rent, Seasons of Love, which wasn't one of my songs in the show. It was an ensemble number, and I'm singing it with the Broadway Inspirational Voices. I think that's what they're called. Then I'm singing a song from Aida called Elaborate Lives with my co-star Heather Headley, who plays Aida.
Great. Looking forward to it. What made you interested in getting involved in Broadway? Was it destiny? You were a rock singer to begin with, right?
I was and am a rock singer, and it was very much fate that brought me, I think, to Broadway. When they were casting Rent off Broadway at the New York Theater Workshop, I got a call from a friend of mine who was familiar with the situation that they were going through, which was that they were trying to find somebody for this particular role. He was somehow peripherally involved, and he knew that I had broken up with my band that I had been with, for 10 years. And he called me up and said, there's this off-Broadway musical. It's a rock musical, and they're looking for rock singers for this role, and they've sort of gone the traditional musical theater route, and they haven't quite found what they're looking for. Do you want to go in and audition for it? And I went in and auditioned because I had never auditioned for anything before. And I was really curious to see what that felt like to audition, Never in a million years thinking that I would ever get it. I just wanted to see what that actually felt like. And the audition just consisted of going in with my guitar and playing a couple of songs. So that's what I did. I went in there and played a couple of songs. I think I played a U2 song, and I played one of my own songs. And they responded. They responded well, and they gave me some songs from the show to learn. And I went home and I learned them, and I came back the next day and auditioned again. And then I came back a third time and auditioned again. And then after the third audition, the director pulled me aside and he said, well, we really like you for this role, but you have to open your eyes when you sing. Because I guess I just had gotten into the habit of, singing in the rock band, keeping my eyes closed. So my final audition, they sat me down and I had to sing Your Eyes, which is the song that the character Roger sings to Mimi at the end of the show. And she's dying, and it's this really emotional song, and he's singing to her and he's professing his love to her, and she's dying on the table. And they said, all right, we want you to sing Your Eyes, but we want you to sing it to Bernie. Bernie was the casting director, and Bernie was sitting right over there, and I had to look at Bernie, and I knew what they wanted, but I'd never done anything like that before, and I said, all right, I have to sing this to Bernie, like I'd be singing it to Mimi. So I just like I said, I knew what they wanted. I had never done it, and what they wanted was for me to act. They wanted me to sing this like this was the dying woman in front of me. And so I just sort of sucked it up and did it, and I just looked at Bernie like he was Mimi, and I sang it to him. It was kind of mortifying, actually, but it got me the job, and the rest is history, I guess, in terms of the story of Rent. It went on to become a huge success, and won the Tony, and Jonathan won the Pulitzer for creating it, and it's still running. Still doing great.
So, Adam, what are some of the parallels that can be drawn? I mean, do you miss the world of rock? Well, you're still doing it.
I'm still doing it.
So is it better, worse, the same?
Well, it's sort of interesting. My life's ambition had always been to, be successful at playing my own music. I'm a songwriter. And so when I got the job in Rent, which even though it was a rock musical, trying to get a record deal was really difficult because people said, oh, he's a musical theater guy. What are we going to do with this? How are we going to make this rock and roll? Not having any idea that I was a rock and roll singer and songwriter before I became a musical theater guy. So I had actually struggled with that problem for a while, and before I actually took the job in Aida, was still struggling with the idea of being pigeonholed as a certain type of performer. And then I sort of, as I got older, and I think I grew up a little bit, and I sort of realized that I don't necessarily have to be one specific type of performer, and especially as as the world continues to progress, there's no reason why we have to necessarily categorize performers in a particular genre of music. I think it's actually a very American thing that that we do that. I think in European countries, it's much easier for performers to cross different genres of entertainment and go from film to music to theater to television, whatever they want to do. But in America, people don't like you to do that. They like to say he's this and she's that, and that I'm comfortable with that, you know. But I decided that I'm going to try and sort of work against that, because that's not who I am. I think I would be doing myself a disservice to stay in one particular form of entertainment, because I like to do a lot of things, and I think I'm capable of doing a lot of things. So I decided that that's what I was going to do, and people were either going to accept it or not accept it, and I would either sink or swim, as they say. And so far I'm swimming.
I would say so. Has there ever been a song that you had to sing that you really didn't like to sing?
I've been very lucky to not have to do anything that I didn't like. I don't have a huge background of musical theater where I've done community theater and done this show and done that show. I don't have that type of history. I've done Rent and I've done Aida, and both of which have absolutely terrific scores written by brilliant songwriters, Jonathan Larson and Elton John. And so I've been extremely lucky, not just in that respect, but extremely lucky in the sense that, people work their entire lives to make it on Broadway and to become, lead actors on Broadway, and I kind of fell into it. And I know there's a lot of sort of animosity and jealousy amongst the community from people who have been working all their lives to get to that place. And I completely understand, and I don't take offense when people feel that way towards me. I know what that feels like. I watch MTV and I watch these, I see these 19-year-old kids who just signed multi-million-dollar record deals and are selling 1 million records, and they're 19 and they're 18. And so I've been trying to do that my whole life. So I know what that feels like, but unfortunately there's nothing I can do about that. That's the way the cards have sort of been laid out so far. So I just feel extremely lucky that I've been given this opportunity and actually have been embraced by this community in most ways, and have really only come up against very little negativity. Most of it has been incredibly positive.
What would you say are the most common misconceptions that people have about Broadway and Broadway performers?
That they're all gay. that's the first misconception.
That's
I think
a fresh answer.
I think theater in this country hasn't been given the same respect per se that it has in Europe, England specifically. Culturally in this country, it's a very specific form of entertainment that is catered and has been traditionally catered towards a very specific audience. And most kids who are pop music fans really have not been exposed to musical theater, nor once they were exposed, if they were, had any relevance to them, because very few shows had any sort of pop sort of elements to them. And the ones that do become wildly successful. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with the traditional musical theater. It's beautiful, and a lot of it is beautiful. But I think that more to bring young kids into the theater, and to bring young kids, teenagers specifically. I'm not talking about 9-year-olds. I'm talking about kids who will grow up, enjoying this type of entertainment. They need to have some sort of relevance in the music. They have to be spoken to in a musical vocabulary that they understand, and Cole Porter and George Gershwin and all these brilliant composers, as brilliant as they were, that's not a musical vocabulary that today's kids can understand. They can't relate to that, So I'm thrilled that I'm actually in musicals that do speak to kids in a form of music that they can actually grasp onto. And so I very much encourage musical theater composers to try and incorporate that and infuse that into the type of music that they create, because I think it's important to continue for this particular type of entertainment to continue to grow. If you keep, I sort of use this analogy a lot. It's like, you think about what films were like in the 30s and the 40s, and what they looked like, and the style of acting, and hey, and there was a certain style, a certain delivery, a certain way the dialogue was spoken, a certain look, the direction was very specific, Imagine if films today in 2000 were still made that way. They were still black and white. The dialogue was still delivered in the same way. The actors and the actresses still looked exactly the same, and they talked the same way. And it was that's what musical theater is like. It's like that. Mm-hmm. And every once in a while, there's a Godfather, and there's Jaws, and there's Star Wars, and there's something that totally breaks that mold and that moves the whole form of entertainment forward and expands it. But for the most part, people still want their nice little quiet thing that they're comfortable with, and they don't want to be shaken up at all, But I think it needs it. If Broadway and musical theater is going to grow, you have to infuse some sort of modern elements into the music, or mm-hmm. else it's dead in the water,
Well, it's been so interesting talking to you, Adam, and you have such wonderfully sort of fresh and exciting ideas about musical theater. And I
just pissed a lot of people off.
No, I want to switch the conversation to the world of public television, because there are some parallels to be drawn here too, because we in public television try, we have a mission in which we try to do the kinds of things that you're talking about. We try to, we take risks,
right,
and we create programming
Absolutely.
that nobody else is willing to go for.
Absolutely, and I think that is as important as anything else in terms of trying to move things forward and trying to influence a younger generation to experience what you're offering them. I grew up watching Channel 13 and public television. Sorry, I think that might have been me. I'm so embarrassed.
That's okay. We're part of this is the year 2000.
You can edit this out, right?
We all have a...
I'm so embarrassed. Can you?
It's your age.
That nothing infuriates me more than when I'm on stage and I hear that going off in the audience. I'm so, oh God, I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Nobody ever calls me either.
It's your agent calling.
No one ever calls me. Seriously.
All right, so just very quickly about public television.
Well, I grew up watching public television, and I can remember when I was a kid, obviously Sesame Street, and there was the Electric Company, and there was Zoom, and there were all these shows that were so influential on me as a kid. And they were so important because I remember to this day vividly every one of those shows, and they impacted me and they helped me grow as a young kid, and they opened up different sort of avenues of entertainment and things that I was, and made me interested in different things. Nova was a huge influence on me as a kid, watching Nova, and I think that it's so important for people to support public television, because what you get from the networks is only what they want to give you. They're spoon feeding the country generic garbage. You know what I mean? That's what you get from the networks, and what you get from public television is what people want and what they need, and that's quality entertainment, and that's quality educational entertainment. Neither of which you're getting from any of the networks. And I think that people should be aware of that, and people should support public television.
Okay, thank you so much, Adam.
Absolutely.
Pascal. Couldn't have said it better myself. Couldn't have said it that way at all. That simple. Thank you.
My pleasure. Absolutely.
Yeah, nice
Thank
to
you.
meet you.
Absolutely. Nice to meet you.
Can't wait to see you.